Hello and welcome to the Doctor Who show, Gin and TARDIS. I'm Dave.
I'm Richard.
And I'm Mark.
And we are back on the couch. The gins are open.
Yep.
And we're about to watch some Doctor Who. We put forward a few Davo stories as choices, and you listeners have voted for 2 stories, in fact. 2 of the 3 Davo two-parters. We're about to watch The King's Demons and The Awakening.
Yes.
We will be...
Oh, Mark, be a bit more enthusiastic.
We have already started on the gin, and so we will watch The King's Demons, give you our thoughts on that, drink some more, watch The Awakening, and see how we go with our thoughts on that. Before we dive in, what are we expecting from this tonight, gentlemen?
And disappointment. I think. No, look. I think The Awakening is. Look, I've got fond memories of The Awakening.
Yes, likewise.
But having watched a lot of season 21 over the last couple of years and been slightly disappointed with some of the stuff, we'll see. The King's Demons, I'm expecting hopefully a bit of a laugh because it's campy like a row of tents.
Yeah, I was going to say, my memories of the King's Demons probably aren't as positive perhaps as those on The Awakening. I do actually have, and Dave, we can tell our King's Demons story maybe when we have the discussion, we do actually have empirical evidence that the King's Demons is the least popular Doctor Who story, but we'll come to that, we'll leave you with that teaser and we'll come back to that after we've watched the story.
Yes, I watched The King's Demons when I worked my way through the season 20 box set not that long ago, so I have seen that one. I don't know when I last watched The Awakening. I may have watched it back in 2013 when we were doing our prep for our 50th anniversary meetings, but I don't remember that being the case, so it could be 15, 16, 20 years since I watched The Awakening.
I've probably watched The Awakening, I reckon, in the last 5 or 6 years. I did watch it when we were doing the stuff for the 50th anniversary around the club, but I reckon I've watched it since. I don't reckon I've watched The King's Demons for a very long time.
So,
what about you, Marcus?
Well,
long time for both?
Long time for both. So let's hope...
This century?
Maybe, but let's hope these stories are a bit of an awakening for us all.
Yes, so look, stories that between us we haven't seen all that often. I must admit the Davison era isn't one I pull off the shelf all that much, and I certainly don't do long runs of. I think the whilst Davo has many, many great stories, Kinder, Visitation, Earthshock, Mordred, Enlightenment, King's Demons, a lot of season 21.
Yeah.
Where it's bad, though, it's pretty bad.
It's down there.
It's down there. So let's see where these ones fall in. Let's crack open the gin. Let's pour a glass. Let's watch The King's Demons.
Strap yourself in, guys. Let's go.
And we're back.
And we're back. We've now watched The King's Demons. We're a couple more gin and tonics in.
Yep.
I needed a lot more, actually, to get through that. But anyway, yes.
There's only 2 episodes, Mark, so...
Still 2 episodes too long.
So, fair to say you weren't a fan then, Mark?
That was really bad. I'm really surprised on how badly that has aged. I'm actually really shocked. Yeah, I'm actually blown away about... 10 years ago, you had The Time Warrior, where very similar setting, and the dialogue just sparkled. In this, it is just cod everything. It's just not that great. I mean, look, there were some great performances, and there's some funny unintentional performances. But
it looked good.
It looked good. I mean, the sets are great.
Yeah,
the music was amazing. I mean, somebody kept reciting the music. I don't know why. Yeah, it was just really pedestrian.
It all just feels so inconsequential at the end of it. Like, what actually? What's it for? Basically,
what's it for? Even the Master being in it, right?
Oh, now I'm gonna say that was they're not even trying to disguise him now.
No. So let me say, I wasn't expecting it to be very good at all. Watching it in company, perhaps with those low expectations, I did get a bit more out of it. Right. And there's certainly a few things we want to discuss and that we can talk about. But no, it's not a complete write-off, but where it's bad, it's not great.
No. And it unintentionally finished a season where it shouldn't have. It's like the Horns of Nihon, because you had the strike and everything like that. And we'll get to that in terms of how they segued into the 5 Doctors in a minute. But anyway, yeah.
So we'll just have a quick chat about when we first saw this and sort of our memories of it. I'll kick off by saying this is one that I missed. I would have been too young to see it when it was first broadcast out here. And the Davo era wasn't repeated all that much down here, and so this was one I didn't see for a very long time. It certainly is one I would have discovered via the Target novel for the first time, so I had a very English experience in that sense.
Yep.
And the Target novel, which we've got in front of us, I mean, it's 2 parts, it's over 150
chunky.
pages, it's a decent book.
Yeah.
And I must admit, that sort of sells the concept of chameleon and the battle of wills and all the rest of it quite well. I don't remember when I saw this, but it would have been on video at some point when I was sort of seeing a lot of other Doctor Who. What about yourselves?
I saw it when it was transmitted on the ABC, and I've got some notes about that
Excellent.
a bit later.
Yes,
but
yes. Likewise.
I don't remember what I thought of it actually when I first saw it. It's, as I said, it has not aged well.
No.
I will tell, I might do it now, I will tell my King's Demons story. Back when Dave and I were running the local club here in Victoria around the 50th anniversary, there was a chap who contacted us, had a pile of VHS tapes he wanted to get rid of. And he didn't want anything for them, he just wanted them out of his house, basically. So he said, well, look, bring them to a meeting and look, people can pick through them or whatever. Well, he brought this massive box in, and there was probably 30, 40 people at the meeting, and he put them on the table and he walked out.
And we're talking 50, 60 VHS releases.
Pretty basically a full set.
Yeah.
Is UK or Aussie?
I don't know, probably Australian,
okay.
but
Yeah.
there was basically, he had pretty much a full set, and there was just this box, and he walked out, and was like, oh, well, thanks mate, yep, whatever. And then we said, oh, well, these are free, go. And it was like watching a plague of locusts just go at the box. It was like, ah. But when the dust had settled and they'd finished fighting over the postcards and whatever that were on
limbs everywhere. Yeah.
There was one tape left in the bottom of the box. They'd actually, and it was the King's Demons. Now, the King's Demons actually came in a 2-pack, if you remember,
with the
on
5
VHS.
Doctors, correct.
So, yes, they'd actually taken the other half of the 2-pack and left the King's Demons in the bottom of the box.
They'd taken the box, the 5 Doctors, and the postcard folder, but just left the loose King's Demons
in the bottom. And then we sort of said, oh, look, there's one tape left, who wants it? And I think somebody went, I'll put their hand up and grabbed it. But there you go, empirical evidence. The King's Demons is the least popular Doctor Who story.
What about you, Mark? What are your memories?
Well, like Richard, saw it in his first transmission back in 1857, I think it was. I don't know. I mean, it was that long ago. Look, I thought it was fine back then. As a 12 or 13-year-old, I think it's fine. It was Doctor Who. It was great. It was enjoyable.
It's
and,
not one that we came through fandom and everyone's
No.
going, oh, the King's Demons, that's rubbish. Like, there were stories that had reputations like that.
Yeah.
This was not one.
It was
I
just
wasn't.
there.
No, that's
you know what I
fair.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
they just said, oh, yeah, it's a story that, finished off season 20. And that's it. And I have watched it a few times, since obviously when it first got transmitted. And I said it's fine. But this time watching it again, I'm just going, wow, it's really, very, coddy.
As I said, it just feels so inconsequential at the other end of it. Like, nothing really happened. I will say, it is probably one of the very, very few stories where the Doctor leaves and everybody, all the locals think he's the bad guy.
It is, actually. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really, really obvious watching it back that nothing really happens. There's sort of a lot of moving and toing and froing.
No, and a lot of sort of expositing at each other.
Yeah.
And as you said, sort of cod medieval dialogue.
Yeah, it's just, and as I said, compare this to the Time Warrior, very similar settings. And I mean, the dialogue that obviously Robert Holmes wrote, and the acting was so much better compared to that. I mean, that's just bizarre. And the Master, I mean, really, in a season of returning monsters, it is so inconsequential for the Master.
It is.
I would have actually gone for the meddling monk.
Well, funny, I actually was thinking that when I was watching it. And the meddling monk, he had actually returned in the comics
that's
around
right.
this time. That 4-dimensional Viscus.
Yes, that's a good comic,
was the comic strip.
Yeah.
But we are in the era of Anthony Ainley's contractual obligations.
Yeah, to appear at least once a season.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a bit more
I would
about...
have paid him off, frankly, and got somebody into Graham Garden, meddling monk. Do it now.
Oh, now that's a parallel universe I'd like to visit.
Yes, that would
It's a
be
big
great.
finish.
Let's talk about the writing then. This is, of course, one of Terence Dudley's masterpieces.
Yep.
Now, look, I think it's probably fair to say that by this stage, Terence Dudley is a very experienced professional in television. I have no doubt that when he delivered scripts, they were able to be filmed pretty quickly with little edit.
Yep.
I've no doubt that when he was a director, he returned stuff on time, on budget.
Yep.
Was he particularly good? I don't think so. And look, for those who haven't ever heard the commentary on Black Orchid, which you also wrote, that is just 45 minutes of Peter Davison slagging off Terence Dudley's writing,
Yes.
which is quite entertaining. Look, I don't think he's a great writer, but this is particularly egregious. As you said, Mark, we were just giggling at some of the really forced sort of cod Shakespearean. Soon we shall sit and meet.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
And the
what's going on?
Feel her tender embrace or whatever.
Yeah, it was just...
Yeah.
it was just...
We shall consummate it. It's all
Yeah.
very, very sort of staged and forced, and a lot happens. And I think it's exacerbated a bit by a very young director in Tony Virgo.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to get stuck into Tony Virgo because this was one of his very first, if not his first television.
Correct, yeah.
And I think that you can see in the way that some of the effects are done, the way that some of the sets are used, the way the outdoor footage is done. There's a sense of a really young director trying to do some really cool stuff, and there's some good shots in there.
Absolutely.
What I think he lacked is that experience and gravitas to turn around to a quite experienced cast and say, not sure what you're doing there, but can we not do that?
Yeah, can we just dial it down a fraction?
Yeah, you know, can you turn around to Frank Windsor or Isla Blair
And can you start acting?
and just say, you know what, that's not what we're going for.
More
Let's
steel,
do it
Anthony.
again.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that outrageous shot where Sir Geoffrey is shot with a crossbow and does like, throws the arms
And
up
the
on the
effect
horse.
was like...
You know, did he have the you know, the experience to go, okay, we're doing that one again?
Yeah.
And probably also exacerbated by the fact that we know Chameleon wasn't an easy prop and slowed down the filming.
Yeah.
So there probably wasn't time to do some retakes or, you know what, that was a bit OTT, let's just bring it down and do another shot. It's sort of like, well, we've just spent 5 hours getting, you know, one scene with the robot.
Yeah.
So, look, it's in the can, let's go.
Yeah. And of the robot, it's actually very impressive for 42 years ago.
1983,
Yeah, it's really good.
absolutely.
It's really good. It's a shame they haven't quite narrowed the midsection or something a little bit more, because if I was watching that without knowing any better, you'd still think maybe it's sort of the Anthony Daniels C-3PO. Like, it's a very thin man squeezed into a suit.
Absolutely.
It's a shame that it hasn't sort of got the really, like, just pulled in at some point. You go, like, physically that guy couldn't be in there.
Yeah.
You probably would think as a member of the audience, well, that's just a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
But knowing it is a robot...
It's a really impressive prop, you know.
It's a really impressive prop. It looks good.
Yeah.
You know, Davo, even when Davo was not enjoying a show, and I think this one he's probably flatter than most, he does go for it. Well, mostly, I think his reaction to the Masters reveal was what I describe breathless indifference.
Yeah, that's right. And he goes, "Oh no, it's a toupee again."
Yeah. But Davo does sell the idea that, you know, this is a robot, it's intelligent, and all the rest of that. The dialogue, though, between him and the Master is not particularly scintillating.
No. My dear doctor.
Oh, it's just like, you won't stop me. Yeah, farewell. You know,
I still have my wits, so do I.
That's right. Yeah.
But Davo does sell Chameleon. Chameleon does look good. But again, the resolution is just the two of them staring at each other, just for long enough for, you know, Tegan to distract them with the TARDIS. He gets in there and they all go home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Having said that, I love the bit at the end with Turlo where he just grabs the sword.
Dixon is
and
brilliant.
He is great in this.
The three
I found
lines he's
Tegan
got.
really whiny.
Oh,
but
yes.
He is great in that. When they first grab him, I'll tell you everything. And then at the end, you know, I've had enough. I just want to, don't push me.
Whoever you are.
Yeah, that's right. I've had enough of you, whoever you are.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. Mark Strix has looked at the script and gone, I've got 4 lines this week,
And I'm locked in
to make them count.
And I'm locked away again. You know, again.
I'm locked up again. Well, that's it. I've got 3 lines now going to count.
Yeah, he's great in it.
He's
really
absolutely
good.
great.
Yeah.
I love Mark Strix.
Yeah,
I love
he's
Turlo.
really, really good. And actually, I think Davison might have been a bit flat because I think from memory, he was doing the John Nathan Turner Cinderella pantomime at the same time as that was being filmed. So I think he might have been a little bit, especially on the outdoor sequences.
Yeah, but it's definitely Christmas time.
Yeah, it was
very,
Christmas
very
time,
cold.
a bit cold and that sort of stuff.
At the Blackadder Castle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Having said that, I think he spent... I mean, when he did season 19, though, he was doing both sitcoms, I think, at Sink or Swim and...
That's true.
And
But he's probably getting well. Yeah, he's probably getting well paid for those.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, Sink or Swim, that excellent sitcom. And Holding the Fort.
Yes.
Yes. How are they going now? Yeah.
Sink or Swim actually wasn't that bad. I do remember watching Sink or Swim.
Was that the one with Robert Glenister?
That's the one with Robert Glenister.
And the other...
That's not bad. Look, I suspect it maybe hasn't aged that well, but...
And the other one was other guy, you can't mention, Matthew Kelly.
Oh, I've seen Patricia Hodge, but
Patricia Hodge, but
Oh, yeah, Patricia Hodge, yeah.
What's his what? Yeah.
That's the sad thing about Holding the Fort. The cast is really good. It's just very cliche.
Yeah.
And quite dull. It's funny you mentioned... Well, I mentioned, actually. It's funny I mentioned Blackadder, because although this was made before Blackadder...
It's not that far before.
It's not that far before. And there was some very sort of Rome, place of Blackadder. There's one point where there was some dialogue happening. I was turning on, I like this news not, bring me some other news. And it was just very, very sort of the same sort of thing. And watching you guys, when Gerald Flood first started, we were sort of going, okay, this is a bit of fun, he's hamming it up, it's all sort of going well, and we're kind of enjoying this. I did find as it went on, though, Gerald Flood's performance just sort of went from being, okay, this is kind of, high value camp to, you're still doing this?
Yeah.
It's very one note. And that's why, sort of, as I say, I get that feeling that Tony Virgo just didn't try and say, look, I like the start there, Gerald, but maybe do something different for this scene.
Yeah. Round up thoughts, what do you think? So basically, if you had to, in your season 20 Parthenon, would this be at the arse end, do you think, or sort of in the middle?
I would actually say, and it's been a little while since I've sat right through season 20, I actually have never found season 20 probably that great a season. I actually think it's the weakest of Davison's three seasons.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's just boring, a lot of it.
Shrub and I have had this argument going on for some years now. Look, we both agree season 21 is just, it's up there.
Absolutely.
It's not just the best of Davo's seasons, it's a great season, full stop. I lean towards season 20 being the better of the two. Rob is very firmly of the view that it's season 19. I think that season 19's lows are a lot lower.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Its highs are higher. Well, Earthshock. Well, and Visitation.
And look, Visitation's fun.
Visitation's good. But where it's
got Time Flight in it.
It's got Time Flight in it. I'm not a fan of Castrovalva. I don't mind for the Doomsday, but it's not great. Whereas, I'll say it. I think King's Demons is the weakest of the season.
Yeah.
I'll happily watch any of the other stories over this. I think that for all of Terminus's production faults, it's trying.
And it's got a good story.
It's really trying. The script is trying hard. The sets are trying hard. It doesn't quite work, but this, what we just watched, isn't working all that well, and it's really hard to put your finger on it because the cast is good.
The cast is good. I just think it's, as I said, it's a weak script. There's no real sense of
jeopardy.
Danger, whatever you want to call it. I mean, even some of the history. I mean, look, I know there's now revisionist views on Magna Carta that it's not this amazing piece of cornerstone of Western democracy that it's held to be.
No, it's an interesting one. I mean, I've got several books on the period on the shelf there, and I think there is a. It's not an extreme of, it was nothing, it was everything. It's somewhere.
It was reissued several times. Didn't the Pope... Well, the Pope annulled it, I think, didn't he, 6 months after it was first issued or something?
Yeah, and there are also future kings where sort of their success was conditional reissue.
Yeah, they had to reissue
it.
It's essentially the medieval version of X. What I mean? It gets revisioned so many times.
But again, you cast Blake Seven's Isle Blair.
Yeah, well, that's Mrs. Glover.
Mrs. Glover. She's from the last season of House of Cards. What's it called? The Final Cut.
Final Cut.
Yep.
Yes, that's a great show.
She's a great. And back then, she was an established great actress.
Yeah.
Again,
what happened?
All she has to do is sort of go, oh no, that's happened, that's bad, and solve it a couple of times. It's just a complete waste.
Yeah. It's look, I mean, give J&T credit because he used to give new directors a go, and he said, look, there's two-parter. What could possibly go wrong? And when we get to the next one, it'll be interesting to see the contrast between the directorial styles, between this and The Awakening. I think from memory, there is going to be a large difference.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting for me is watching this really sort of confirmed for me that 80s Doctor Who struggles with historicals because you start with the, that awesome theme. We're all saying what a great theme the Davo theme is and how good the opening credits look, but it's a very 80s sort of theme. You then sort of go to 12:15 and you've got the music doing a bit of lute here and there, a bit of flute, and then you've got the sort of the very 80s synth. And again, to contrast with stuff like Time Warrior, even Talons of Wen Chiang, where Dudley Simpson can pull out older instruments and sort of give it a much older sort of feel. This felt like the 80s doing history. Yeah. And that's interesting. But the other thing I think is just interesting about doing history is, although we did get an exposition dump sort of early on, when Davo says stuff like, well, we're in 12:15, you could imagine a lot of school kids going, 12:15 at Runnymede, that would be a thing that people would know. Yeah. Whereas, if this was New Who, it would be like, you've never heard of 12:15, have you? No, I haven't. You ignorant ape.
Exactly. Absolutely right. And, So, the lead into the Five Doctors there, at the end of that
Well, I told us the
particular
Master's
story.
TARDIS is crippled, and then he turns up on Gallifrey.
Exactly. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But in terms of if the resurrection of the Daleks was finishing that season, would they have said, we're going to the Eye of Orion, and then the Daleks' time corridor would have whacked them out of that?
Maybe.
And then they would have gone back to the Eye of Orion and the Five Doctors.
No, I reckon by this stage they knew that resurrection wasn't
They
happening.
reckon it was just filmed it.
And Sable would have done the whole, end of Frontiers, getting trapped in the time corridor leading. Because James was very big on that whole sort of every story needs to lead into the next one.
Yeah.
They are foreshadowing the Eye of Orion. They have been.
I guess we've talked for about 15 minutes or so on the King's Demons.
That's
so
enough, yeah.
Before we move on to the Awakening, just some quick facts and figures. Here in Australia, King's Demons screened on the 23rd and 24th of May 1983, which was a Monday and a Tuesday.
That's not far off the UK
about
transmission.
2 months.
That's not
after
bad.
UK, which was mid-March.
Yes.
In 1983, just quickly, Doctor Who debuted on the Monday the 11th of April. It had been off for about 4 months since December 82.
Yeah.
And it replaced those ABC stalwarts, Kenny Everett and the Goodies. The Goodies run ended on the Friday night before with the Goodies and the Beanstalk, so that was right at the end of the run when they used to show the 45-minute ones.
Yep.
They started Who that year by showing repeats of Black Orchid, Earthshock and Time Flight. And then they went into Arc of Infinity and the rest of season 20.
Wow.
And it was paired with an exciting new kids series called Home.
Home, home, home on the other side.
That's the
It
one.
doesn't matter if you're down. Yeah.
Home, home, home on the other side.
Yeah, now, after screening The King's Demons, obviously that was the end of the season, so the ABC went into a run of Pertwee stories.
Yes.
And then they went back to their default setting of Philip Hinchcliffe, Tom Baker's.
What, season 12?
The Pertwee and Baker repeats were paired with another run of, you guessed it, The Goodies.
Yay!
Followed by Kenny Everett.
Oh, the magical hour.
But then back to The Goodies. This is they are absolutely flogging The Goodies, the ABC in the early 80s.
The residuals for those guys.
Oh, must have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say, now that you've said that, I want the Big Finish release Doctor Who and the Goodies.
Oh, yeah. Coming soon.
The
With
crossover.
Tim Trelaw as Tim Brooke Taylor.
That's a step too far. That's one tin too far.
Nicholas Briggs as the computer.
Oh, God.
Do you know he does the voices of the Daleks? I didn't know that.
Did you know that?
No.
He does the voices of everything.
Yeah.
Just to finish, Doctor Who and thankfully The Goodies ended for the year just before Christmas 83.
Yeah.
But on the 12th of December, alongside episode 2 of The Robots of Death, was the debut of the Five Doctors.
Yay!
Yeah.
What day was that? December the...
Tuesday, the 12th of December.
I always thought it was the 7th. There you go.
There you go.
And it was that was an amazing day watching that. The lead up to that episode.
Now, were you like me? Because I was sitting there, I remember when the news ended or the 7:30 report ended or whatever, and I had the video on pause.
No, I was too
And then
poor.
I was like, William Hartnell, oh my God!
And he missed it.
I missed the first couple of seconds of William Hartnell.
No, I didn't have a video recorder, but I just remember like 15 minutes before it started, my dad goes to me, could you go and get some milk? I hadn't run to the milk bar that fast in years.
Stole the car.
I was living in Preston, so yes, I just I had a milk bar around the corner and just got there just for the Five Doctors. Sorry, we digress.
Well, I was going to say our off-air recording of the Five Doctors was from the 84 repeat. And we talk about kids today, using mobile phones and all that stuff. At the age of 4, because Dad had to go to work, my job was to manually record Resurrection of the Daleks at 6:30, turn it off, swap the tape, put it on timer so that the Five Doctors could be recorded later that night.
Wow.
As a 4-year-old?
As a 4-year-old.
You are a
Well done.
Well
that
done.
is
That-
right.
yeah.
Well done.
child prodigy there. Well
He
done.
didn't say whether he was successful, but
One day I shall come, etc.
His dad's still upset by it.
So look, my final thought on the King's Demons. It's not great, and certainly by the time the Master's doing the medieval misfits, you sort of thought that. And then which is obviously the king. You think that's his low point, but by the time you're medieval misfits, you're like, what are you doing,
assault of
Anthony?
the king here, so that I just French accent.
Yes, I saw the king. I mean, Anthony's performance is terrible. By the time you get to that, I was sort of just going, oh my God, this is not great. But look, It's inconsequential, it's silly, but the cast is good, it looks good,
Yep.
Chameleon's good. There's enough...
Turlo's great.
Turlo's brilliant in it. Yeah.
There was enough there that I wasn't hating this.
No.
Look,
And it's only 2 episodes.
it's only 2 episodes. It's there and then it's gone. It was harmless. It was fun with some gin and tonic and you
And
guys.
can I just say, Dave actually went to the fridge to get a second can. I think halfway through episode 2.
Yes.
So he caved before the rest of us because it's usually me.
I did.
You know, it's yeah.
I did. Hopefully, I hit the record button before. look, I've said enough. We have the Awakening to watch. Final thought from you, Mark?
Mostly harmless.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Yeah, mostly harmless.
I've watched it. I don't need to watch it again for a while.
Unless get some mates with a couple of bottles of booze and a bag of chips and have a laugh at it, you know. But there's other. If you want, there's certainly better Davos to watch.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And hopefully we're going to see one of those now.
Yes. Well, we will. We'll channel the Star Wars holiday special. One more round, sir.
I thought you were going to start singing at the end then, or Princess Leia style. But anyway.
Day of harmony. Yes, just watching Harrison Ford lose the will to do anything with Star Wars ever again. Anyway, we digress. Another round. We'll pause the recording. We'll watch The Awakening, and we'll be back in no
soon.
time at all.
We've got to go back to the fridge. See you in a minute.
And that was The Awakening.
And we're back.
We're back. First reaction, Mark.
I loved it. It was a complete antidote from what we saw before, and maybe because we watched The King's Demons before, anything could have been better than that. But I actually really enjoyed watching that story.
You were gritting it right through it.
You were.
Was
like-
I being happy again, Dave? I know you've been spreading false rumours about me last year about me smiling at some convention, but look, I was watching that and I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. Davison in that story, compared to, like, you can tell he's actually enjoying himself. In King's Demons, he was miserable. And also, I think with Polly James, the dynamic between the Fifth Doctor and an older woman, same with Kinder and Neresh Hughes, is a completely different contrast to what he's been saddled with, i.e. with Tegan. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it worked really well. It didn't outstay its welcome. I mean, originally it was supposed to be 4 parts, and thank God it wasn't. Eric so we reduced it down.
I can't imagine that at 4 parts.
No, not at 4. I really enjoyed it as well. Certainly better than The King's Demons. It is a little bit, I think, style over substance, because there is a lot of really interesting ideas in that, and a lot of stuff sort of thrown at you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really spend any time on a lot of it.
Yeah.
So look, whether a 3-parter, maybe, to flesh some of it out a bit, or whether it just needed like another draft of the script just to tighten it right up.
Probably
And drop some of the sort of extraneous stuff. But look, I enjoyed it. I actually thought it was a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Dave's
got this look
Dave's got a slight pained expression on his face. So I
Yeah.
suspect Dave maybe didn't share our views, but go on.
I was bored for a lot of that.
Okay.
Part 1, I think, is a particularly bad offender. I got to the end of part 1 and just said, nothing has happened.
Part 1 is very much set up.
We arrived in the church, we ran around a bit, we got back to the church just in time for the crack to
But
get
some of
bigger.
the stuff, like when I was setting up the mystery and stuff, didn't really land?
To be honest, no.
Look, if I was being negative, I think, look, part 1 is very much set up, and part 2 is the rush bit, because then it just sort of rushes through to resolve the story. But
Yeah, look, I get that. And there are some positives that I absolutely will be talking about. I get the feeling, because although we haven't watched Black Orchid tonight, thank goodness.
Oh, that's next.
I need to go and get more gin.
Yeah, we need a bottle of scotch for that one. Although I haven't watched Black Orchid tonight, my memory is that it's very similar. There actually isn't a lot of plot. And I just wonder whether the production team thought that you couldn't do a story in 2 parts with any substance, which is ridiculous, because, Blake 7 was 50 minutes.
Yeah, at the time, exactly.
They pack a lot of story in there. I just don't think there was a lot of story in there. There were positives that I'm going to talk about, but fundamentally I just thought it was dull. And even when we talk about part 2, like, the resolution is, firstly, the Doctor pushes a few buttons on the console and goes, oh, well, that's the mallet sorted with, push some buttons, it's all sort of finished. Then they push Sir George into a hole.
Yeah, I don't understand
Not
that
quite
bit.
sure.
Into the smoke effect.
Yeah. And he's meant to...
You better he be dead.
Yeah,
I don't understand that either.
I just didn't get anything out of the ending. Then sort of stood around for the Scooby-Doo, oh, I quite like tea. And just, it was just, I don't know, I mean, like The King's Demons, I didn't hate it. I wasn't sitting there going, this is egregiously bad. Or
Did you at least think it was better than The King's Demons?
King's Demons, I was at least entertained laughing at it.
Okay.
This one, I was just sort of like, waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, okay, because as I said, I think this has got much better ideas than the King's Demons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Much better central
And
conceit.
script and dialogue.
And I actually think that with one or two exceptions, I think on the whole the performances and that are better.
Yeah,
I actually
absolutely.
think the cast are really getting into it because it's not. At least they don't have to do that sort of cod Shakespeare stuff we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
There are a few forced moments.
There are. Look, I have to say, look, if we're going to do the guest cast now, Glenn Houston is sort of sleepwalking through that, to be honest. I don't want to be unkind to him. And look, I'll be honest, I don't get what the whole thing with Willow is, Sir George Hutchison's 2IC, because why is he such a bad-tempered, nasty... Is he?
Yeah, so I think, being generous, what they're trying to do is talk about the different people involved in the war game. So you've got people like Verney and
Jane
Hampton, thank you. See, I wasn't really watching it. You've got people like Verney and Jane Hampton who are like, no, I'm not taking part in this.
Yeah, this is silly.
This is silly. Then you've got people like Glenn Houston's character who's like, look, this is just a bit of fun. I'm not really sort of, invested in this, but I'll put on a costume and parade around, that sort of fun.
And I get to go down the pub with my mates and drink afterwards.
Yeah. And then you've got guys like the Willow character who are just like...
Really into it.
Yeah, I've kind of secretly always wanted to do this, and now I've got the chance, and the magistrate says it's okay. So.
Yeah, I'm in the costume, I'm going to go for it. Yeah.
And I want to impress him as well.
Yeah, and I think if you were doing this as a more modern story, there would be that sort of sense.
That's the thing. It's probably missing a line of dialogue, like
he's invested.
Yeah, or something, or Sir George Hutchinson's promised him, I don't know, an estate or something when he's all powerful or something.
I think he's just a bastard who's like,
this is my chance.
I get to beat people up scot free.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So look, I'll just keep going by talking about my first memories of this.
Yep.
Because this is one of the very earliest Doctor Who stories I have any memories of at all when it was first broadcast.
So that would have been first broadcast.
First broadcast, so I would have been.
So if you were setting the VCR at 4, you're old enough to remember this.
Yeah. So look, I don't remember it well, but one of the strengths of this is the imagery, and I absolutely remember the shot of the Malice face. I remember it coming through the crack.
Yep.
I remember the Doctor being sort of subsumed in the smoke machine.
Yep.
I remember the Malice inside the TARDIS vomiting.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that imagery is very, very strong. After that, I would have then seen it again at one of the local club video nights where we all were, although we didn't know each other at the time, back in about 1988 or something thereabouts.
Yeah, that'd be right.
Because it was quite forgotten, wasn't it, really? Like, it was actually fairly hard to obtain, I remember.
I had it and taped it at the time, and I do remember watching it a few times afterwards. And look, it probably, when I was, I'd have been 14 when I saw that. Look, I actually thought it was pretty good. Look, with the benefit of age and hindsight and whatever, look, you can see its flaws, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, look, the filming location looks great.
Yep.
The Malice looks great. There's some good ideas. Look, once again, I think it's a Davison story that's saved by Mark Strickson just having a lot of fun, even if he's locked up again.
Yep.
Again, yes. Very similar tropes.
But again, I just didn't think a lot happened. And the resolution was just, as I say, sort of not a lot. But
no.
Mark, you loved it. What did you love about it?
It was a lot better than the King's Demons. I don't know. I think maybe because probably 2 gin and tonics in. I don't know. Look, I just think that season for me was when I really, went from casual viewer to fan. And see, maybe I'm not objective enough for season 21. But I just love. I
think season 21 though. Season 21 is easily Davison's best season, it's when he, I think, has really got what he wants to do.
Yes, and the quips and that sort of stuff. That's
the thing, because he's got quite an acid tongue in that. He's great with Jane Hampton when he's sort of giving her the prompts and then sort of getting exasperated when she can't keep up with him. Yeah. And then, of course, he gets his toast of little Hodgkin.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And he's also, like, at the end of it, he's channeling Troughton, about the whole, concentrate and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like, it's a very Troughton-esque performance there. So, but he just, he knocked out the park, I'll be honest with you.
I think Davison's really good in this. I think that you are seeing the evolution of the season 21 David that we all love. And from here, it just gets better and better. You've got Frontios, you've got Flame of Fire, and then by the time he's in Androzani, he's just hit his stride.
Yeah,
he's just
he should have had that one more story. But, but I don't know, I just really enjoyed watching it. It was actually nice to watch I hadn't sat down and watched much Doctor Who in the last few months, and it was actually nice to sit down and watch some Doctor Who I actually enjoyed. And because the King's Demons was a bit of a struggle, to be honest. I'm going, why am I doing this? And then this time to spring,
Because you enjoy our company, Mark.
Yeah, okay. And no, I do actually. No, but I just enjoyed it. It was this nice story to watch, and one thing I do want to go now is actually go and listen to the book or read the book and see what the differences are. Because I think you got the book there, David. When was it? Have you read it before?
Oh, a very, very long time ago. But yes, and look again, it's a longer one. It's 143, 144 pages.
I'd say it'd be much more. My memory is it's a bit more in depth. I remember reading it when I bought it. I don't think I've read it since.
Yeah.
But
well, it's 20 pages more than the standard.
So look, maybe
so
he's gone he's done the 4-part version in there.
He might have actually. Yeah.
I can't remember if the chameleon scenes.
Because there was that comment about apparently it became, when they did season 21 polls, the Awakening was very, very high. And Eric Pringle got a whole lot of kudos, and Eric Sayward said quite bitterly to JNT, the wrong Eric got all the credit.
Oh
yes, but music was great. Direction was fantastic compared to Tony Vogo's.
I didn't think the music was great. Sorry, I thought
really.
When the Radiophonic Workshop takes over the music in season 18, I think there's a real attempt to make themes and songs and proper
cues
that are distinct to every story. Whereas this really, to me, felt like Davison music by numbers. It's just synth sounds of boop, 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 just sort of,
I love synth.
I love synth as well. Solar Mare is a fantastic album.
I
love the Pet Shop Boys, for God's sake. Of course I love synth. But this, I didn't get any sense of a theme or tuned. It was just synth noises. And I think that's one of the real weaknesses of the Davison era. And the Davison stories that do stand out are the ones like Affrontios with the panpipes, like Enlightenment, like Kinder, where they do something that isn't...
And Castrovel with the guitars, a bit of Noel Rodgers.
The Davo scores are the ones that stand out. This just, to me, felt very generic Davo, and I didn't think it was
better than Arc of Infinity. And I think...
Well, yes.
Well, I think the reason for me, the music... Doctor Who, the Music Volume 2, I played that a lot, and you were
humming along with it.
I know, and you were going...
For both of those stories,
you were about to call security. Dave's going, what is he doing, and I was going, meow, and all sort of stuff. So those musical
singing
suites...
along with the King and his lute.
Oh, yes. It was, I think those musical suites, obviously... Because a lot of the time, I couldn't go back and watch a story, so the musical suites, for me, were sort of a way of... trying to remember.
So you didn't have these on tape? You didn't tape these at the...
No, I didn't have a video till 1985. Okay. So I missed all these. I mean, a friend of mine had...
Just in time to tape season 22.
Which I did. Yeah. And I didn't get copies of these, I think, till the late 80s, early 90s, when the ABC repeated, some of them and that sort of stuff.
Well, they were on at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I did. I had the timer on, and some days I had to get up, and that sort of stuff. So,
because of all the eras out there, the Davo one's the one that we got the least repeats of, by far.
Yeah, because I thought it was on all the time.
McCoy, actually, but yeah.
Well...
Yeah, I always thought it was...
Trial and McCoy, if you want to be pedantic.
I always thought it was very highly repeated, but no, I think you're right. No. It was back to season 12.
It's not... Yeah, I was going to say, it's not Hinchcliffe, Tom Baker, so...
Or Pertwee, or...
No, exactly, yeah. But, look, Happy Times and Places, that just takes me back to when I watched it when I was young and, happy. So, yeah.
So, a couple of cast members we probably need to speak a little bit more about. Now, listeners to Spacefall know that we like our references to Rumpole and the Oneida Line. And the actor who plays Will Chandler is in both.
Yes.
He's, in fact, young Jim Timpson. You'll see me right, Mr. Rumpole. You always see us Timpsons right.
Yeah, I have actually read the thing about Keith Jane, because he had, I think it was a pituitary gland issue, and he was actually, like, he had shorter growth. So for years he got cast in sort of young kid type roles for years, and he got sort of typecast, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
what did we think of his performance here?
I mean, look, he get to do the sort of more that type accent, because he's playing the yokel. But
I thought it was fine. But wasn't it like rumours that they were going to make him a companion or something rubbish like that?
One of the rumours.
It's God.
Sort of, well, I mean, look, it was probably one of those discussions. Wouldn't it be great if he was a companion? No, John, it wouldn't.
No.
We're trying to scale down. Yeah. I mean, given that he was trying to get rid of Fielding and Strickson during the course of this season, it seems
in quick
unlikely.
succession. Exactly. But there was that rumour going around. But I thought
he was quite good.
I thought he was fine.
Now, the other Rumpole of the Bailey link we have, of course, is Bonnie Bernard himself, Dennis Lill.
I was going to go with Red Dwarf, but yeah, go
Well,
on.
yes, he was in Red Dwarf. He was in Evita.
Yeah.
Survivors. I mean,
he's been in a
Image
lot
of
of
the
stuff.
Fendal.
Yes. He's fantastic.
That's
in Image of
great.
Fendal.
Yeah.
Look, Dennis Lill is one of, he's that guy.
Yeah.
I really lurched in my opinion of his. There were scenes where I'm just sitting there going, oh, that's just too far. And there are others where you've gone right up to the line, had fun, but you haven't crossed it. And I think those real OTT villains are a real matter of just which side of the line you fall. And some of them completely fall the wrong way, some of them completely get it. I just thought, depending on the scene, and it may even have been a location studio thing a bit as well.
Maybe.
There were times where I've just sort of gone, that's too much. And others where I thought, yeah, that is a spot-on Doctor Who performance. What do you guys think?
He was an improvement over Anthony Ainley.
Actually, you did say that too. He'd out Ainley in the first
I just thought in terms of what he was like, he conveyed himself as a possessed evil person, if I can say that. He did go a bit over the top, but it was an interesting and entertaining performance where Ainley is watching and going, "Oh my God, what's he doing?"
Well, there is sort of a steady increase, I think. When you first meet him, he's just a little bit essentially, the games are fun and we're all getting into it and, be a part of it. Hearty laughing.
Local mate, just straight, I'll find myself quite innocent.
Yes, yes, lots of hearty laughing. But, but as it sort of goes on, obviously, he becomes more and more unhinged. Look, the whole point is obviously, the malice has driven him nuts or whatever, and he maybe was a bit unhinged to begin with, perhaps, but I thought he did quite well with what he had to do.
It was entertaining, but not the Paul Darrow way,
Could you imagine Paul Darrow doing that?
Furniture, bless him.
So, because we are three sad middle-aged men watching this 40 years after it was made, and we are thinking about how hard it was meant to, what the hell was going on with the malice? Because I get that that's the head of the malice.
Yeah.
There's the implication that it's sort of, buried standing up for
I think so. Like it's in either behind the back of the church or in under the ground, I think.
Yeah, it was buried around the church, wasn't it? They buried they built the church around
how it got into the church, that's one of the things they clearly didn't touch on.
Yeah.
But I think that's meant to be the idea that it's sort of in the sort of underneath, and then
they built the church around it, didn't they?
Or either built the church over the top of it or walled it up or something.
That's its head, but where's
underground,
where's
I suppose.
its tail?
Well, underground, I suppose. In maybe it's in sort of the fourth wall of the crypt that we didn't get to see.
Speaking of that church effect, the blowing up of the church, that is not as good as the Demons.
It's not as good as the Demons.
The explosion part wasn't bad.
That wasn't bad.
The whole collapsing church bit, that wasn't
No,
that
that
great.
wasn't very good.
No.
To be honest.
That wasn't that well done.
No.
And look, we probably should talk about, we've sort of skirted around a couple of times, we should talk about Polly Jones as Joan Hampton.
She was wonderful. She was great.
You're right, and she really played off Davison really well. As I said, I really like the scenes where he's there, he's sort of trying to encourage her, and what's causing the most slugging energy at the moment? War games. And then, as I said, you see him get frustrated with it because she can't keep up.
It's a different dynamic. It's a completely different dynamic. And it's actually, in retrospect, that's what they should have gone for. Young man with an older woman, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and she does work with his slightly more acid performance.
Absolutely.
Like, we've got to stop it. Yes, I know. That was work. So look, I mean, there were very good performances. There's a lot to like in this.
Yeah, there was.
I'm not dissing the production.
No,
but I did think it was dull.
Okay.
I did just think it was dull. I do think it is uncontestably, in my mind, the weakest of the Davison stories from season 21. The important qualifier there. It's not the worst of season 21 because there's a Colin story. But of the Davo stories in season 21, I think that's the weakest.
Really? I was going to say, I'm not a huge fan of Warriors of the Deep. Again, I think it's got some really interesting ideas.
Yeah, I like Warriors of the Deep.
The core story is good, but I think the production is... And look, I know there are all the problems with Russian stuff. The production's pretty ordinary.
Sure, but at least it's there's an adventure going on.
Yeah, look, there is, and it's got the Solarians and Sea Devils in it. And look, I have to say, when I watched Resurrection as probably a 14-year-old, I thought Resurrection was great. It was really cool.
was-
and it was
As
bomb.
a kid, I bloody loved Resurrection.
Now,
now you watch it and you think,
It's a mess.
oh, my
But again,
goodness.
it's an entertaining mess. It's an
Look,
adventure.
it has what I think is one of the darker moments in Who in it, where Tegan calls out to that guy who's just mudlarking down on the banks of the Thames,
Yeah.
and he just gets casually shot.
or the killing of the play school presenter.
Yes.
Or
That's a positive.
The guy's face collapsing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Look, I think there's a lot of good in Resurrection. The plot's complete nonsense, but at least it's an exciting adventure.
Yep.
I didn't think The Awakening was.
But if you think about that run of The Awakening, The Caves is one of the strongest run of stories.
Oh, look, I won't agree. I won't agree with you on The Awakening, but the next four, that is fantastic. I love Frontios.
Yeah.
I enjoy Resurrection. Planet of Fire is my favourite Davo, and Androzani's a classic.
Yeah.
So that is a very strong
I
run.
would put Awakening over Planet of Fire.
Ooh.
I know I've upset you, and I'm leaving the house now. I've been escorted a manhandle, actually.
There's fighting words.
Yeah.
Whatever our personal preferences, it is a very strong season and a very strong
is,
run.
yeah.
With a really strong cast.
Absolutely.
I think at this stage, Fielding's worked out what she wants to do, and that's
Leave.
that's very true.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
Janet Fielding's worked out how to play Tegan, and they've worked out how to write Tegan. It's taken them a year, almost 2 years, but they've worked out how to do Tegan.
Yeah.
Strixon just. They don't know what to do with Turlo, but he makes it work.
He does make it work. He sees Will in the church. Like, who is that?
Yes. And you do get that thing of Turlo sort of like, well, I need to be brave here, and there's no benefit for me, so no. Or, look, I have to be brave, and I actually probably do need this to work, so fine, I'll do it. You do see that. It's just a shame that he was locked away.
Locked away.
Underutilized, you know what I mean? And
And even Vernie, Tegan's granddad, I didn't realise he wasn't in part one at all.
No.
And then he sort of doesn't add a lot of other. We've got to go to the church and destroy the medal. It's like, how, old man? Like, what are you going to do?
He's going to use that can of Jace fluid and sit on him.
Exactly right. And it's very New Who, isn't it? Oh, we're going off to see a family member. You know, I'm going back to see my mum. This is before they...
This is the start of New Who. This is where it all starts.
Let's not tar the brush, Dave. Come on. No.
If you knew that The Awakening would one day end up with New Who, would you go back and shoot that child?
Do I have the right?
Do you have the right? We did watch the deleted scenes.
We did.
Any comments?
I can see why most of them were deleted, because a lot of them were just trims and they added nothing. Look, we obviously the chameleon scene is the one that is the money shot, but
do you know what? The chameleon. I was just thinking about this when I was watching it. Right, the chameleon was locked away. When poor old Mark Turlo was locked away. I mean, chameleon was locked away for months. What they could have done with chameleon is have, say, Will Chandler or something like that. Chameleon turn to Will Chandler be affected by the malice or whatever, and that would, instead of actually having him, you could actually use him every story. He would change into a character and be part of that story as opposed to being locked up. Or is that just a big finish waiting to happen?
I think that might be a big finish waiting to happen. I mean, the truth obviously is because the guy who you had to program the robot,
He died. He died.
Yes.
Well, allegedly, I think that's now contested.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think he's dead, don't
Well,
I?
he's dead now.
No, I think he died in '84 in a boating
Because
accident.
there were two of them. There was a guy who actually built the thing, and then there was a guy who
software
knew how to
programmer.
program it. It was the software guy who passed away.
Yeah, I reckon that's now being contested a bit.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do remember reading an interview,
Right,
but
we better
we're
find
going
that
down
out.
the track. But I think you're right about Chameleon. You look at Jedediah from the Tomorrow People, where they sort of show the very dodgy, boxy robot for about 6 seconds, and then he has the power to transform into an
Absolutely.
actor. And that's what they do with Chameleon in Planet of Fire. They turn him into Dallas Jones, Dallas Adams, isn't it?
Dallas Adams. Yeah, and the acting style doesn't improve. It's the same. Oh no, he's terrible. I don't care if he's dead. It's terrible. And Chameleon as well.
No, do you have any? Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I suppose if you want an in-universe explanation, there is the book The Crystal Bucephalus, Craig Hinton,
It
I
is,
think.
yes. Oh, yes.
The
Which-
late Craig Hinton.
Yes.
Yes, one of the Virgin Missing Adventures.
Yes, it is, which happens between the King's Demons and the Five Doctors. It explains why there's a new console room in Five Doctors, because whatever, I can't remember at the end of the story, whatever the Doctor does destroys part of the TARDIS. And you get the reason Chameleon actually shuts himself away, because he gets controlled by the main bad guy. He goes around and just shoots people.
Yes.
Because he's too easy. He can't fend for himself, and any strong will can take him over.
Yes, but this is the one where Chameleon can turn into all sorts of things.
Yes.
It's like those...
Not just people, yes.
Yes, it's like those Deep Space Nine novels where suddenly Odo can turn into eagles and stuff like that.
Form off an eagle.
Oh, I was going to go Manimal.
Oh, Manimal. Oh, yeah, Manimal.
Because they could only pay for a couple of special effects, so he could only turn him... He could only turn into the panther or the eagle.
Yeah,
they couldn't afford any other animals.
Was that Crystal Bucephalus book about the Doctor owning a restaurant or something?
Yes, that's the one. They go to the restaurant and you go through time and you can go to any restaurant in history. And then he gets trapped and then he has to build wherever it is he is, he has to build that up to a world famous restaurant or galactically famous restaurant so that they open a time portal there and he can escape. That's not bad, actually, for a book I read 30 years ago. I actually remember quite a bit of it.
I was about to say, as you're saying it, I was sort of nodding, going, "Oh, that's right," but I couldn't.
I do.
Couldn't
vaguely
myself.
I have to go back and reread it, actually.
Yeah, it's good. Now, do you want to give us some fun facts about this story?
You want to do a fun fact? So, look, The Awakening screened here on Friday the 9th of March and Monday the 12th of March, 1984.
Not far behind the UK.
Only about 2 months behind the UK.
That's impressive.
The Monday was actually the Labor Day holiday for those of us here in Victoria. But, there you go. So in 1984, and look, we talked about some of this during the Twin Dilemma discussion, so I'll zip through this. So Doctor Who in 1984 it debuted on Friday the 17th of February, so it had been off for about 8 weeks. From the end of 1983.
8 weeks without Doctor Who.
Oh my God.
How we suffered.
Well, we actually got to watch Monkey edited versions of Spike Milligan's Q series.
Oh, wow.
When is the editors off?
Milligan and Monkey it was called.
Right. Edited for time or edited for taste?
I'm going to go time. Look, I remember thinking the Q series was quite funny when I saw it as a kid. I don't think it hasn't aged very well.
No.
But look, humour like that doesn't really.
No.
Yeah, so when Doctor Who started in 1984, they showed a couple of season 15 stories, which were paired with repeats of Australia Standing in it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Classic Australian comedy.
God, yeah.
God.
Yep. They showed Horror of Fang Rock, Invisible Enemy and Fendale, and then they went straight into season 21. Now, obviously, it was the early part of season 21 because they had the transport issues later in the season.
Yes.
Now, we mentioned Home earlier, so these were actually screened alongside the repeats of Home.
Yes.
Now, after repeating Home, the ABC debuted a new series, was called Six of the Best. Do you remember that?
No.
No, it was it's only 6 episodes, and it was about a group of school leavers, and it followed, when they leave school and they're trying to get a job or trying to get into training or their relationships. Probably best known now, at the start of very young Gina Riley, Paul Frontal and Catherine King.
Yep.
That was one of her very early roles.
Yeah.
They then showed a repeat of an adventure series called The Coral Island, which was a slightly updated take on the classic novel. Don't remember that one either.
I very vaguely
remember that.
Yeah.
Now, we then got a repeat of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Yes.
And you can hear our discussion about that from last week with Dylan Reeves on this very channel.
Well done. Followed by Kenny Everett.
Again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again.
Now, we mentioned during the Twin Dilemma that Doctor Who and the goodies were back around November with a short run of Pertwee episodes.
Yes.
Which was the debut of Invasion of the Dinosaurs as part of that run.
Yes.
The
5 episode version.
Yes.
And K9 and Company on the 24th of December was the debut.
Meow meow. Really?
Yes.
So 3
I
years.
have no memory of that happening at all.
Really?
I vaguely do.
Yeah.
I vaguely do. Because that was about 3 years after it was...
Yeah, absolutely it was. Yeah.
That's surprising. We completely missed it. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
So there you go.
Meow meow.
There you go. Final thoughts on The Awakening, gents. Richard?
As I said, I enjoyed it. It didn't outstay its welcome. It's not a perfect story. It has a lot of gaps, but look, I had fun watching it.
Yeah, look, talking through it with you guys, I've perhaps appreciated what it had going for it a bit more. There is a lot of good in it. There's some good performances, there's some good ideas. As you said, Richard, I can't deny, though, that watching it, I just found it dull. Mm-hmm. But no, talking about it, I've appreciated it a bit more. Mark?
I think, as I said at the beginning of the episode, I thoroughly loved watching it again. Yeah, it just reminded me of...
Better times.
But it's just nice to watch. It was...
Happy times and places.
It didn't outstay its welcome. Had some great performances in there. and I like the music. Meow meow. It was enjoyable, and I just got a lot out of it. And I think also sitting with you guys, I know Dave was looking with disdain, but that's okay.
While he was checking the footy scores.
Checking the footy scores. How's it going, Dave?
I was seeing the footy scores we lost. So
okay.
That probably didn't help. By too much. Yes.
That's why his mood's a bit foul. Anyway,
look, we'll keep going. We'll be gathering sometime after the federal election down here for our next one, because my life is rapidly not becoming my own in terms of work. Now, a reminder, listeners, about the rules that we set ourselves when we put together Gin and TARDIS, and that we're required to get some of our fellows on the couch to sign on.
Yes.
The rules were it must be classic.
Yes.
Yep.
Must fully exist.
Yes.
And it must be 4 parts or less.
So we can't do Monster of Peladon.
Thank God.
Now, that does mean that although we haven't done a Troughton, there aren't a lot of Troughtons to do.
No, and look, they've all been done to death, is the problem.
And that's the problem. Look, as much as I enjoy Tomb, I think we know what we think of Tomb, we know what we think of the Crotons, and they're sort of the only options. So, look, we will do a Troughton
my role was pretty short. It basically is a 4-part.
Look, I was about to say, but again,
what is there to say?
What is there to say about the Bible? It's been repeated out here so often. So what we decided to do for our next instalment is just each of us nominate what we've called an interesting story.
Yeah.
One that's neither a classic nor one we hate, but just one that perhaps gets missed in the mists of time.
Yep.
And we'll once again let the listeners vote for what we are going to watch next time, which, as I say, will be after the Australian election. Now, Rob from 42 to Doomsday, who we are hoping will join us on the couch for that one, which would be great. He has nominated The Ribos Operation.
Oh.
Richard?
I had a couple of choices, but I'm going to go with Ghostlight.
Fine.
Wow.
Mark?
I'm going to go with The Image of the Fendal, or...
Come on, Mark.
I was going to upset Dave and to say we're going to go the 4-part version of the Cave Monsters, but I'm not going to do that. So, no, we're going to go Image of the Fendal.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm going to go with Pertwee, and I'm going to pick Curse of Peladon.
Hey!
Okay.
So, look, I think that's 4 interesting and different stories.
Yeah.
Listeners, we'll put a poll up on X. But we look forward to getting back on the couch again.
Yes.
As I said before, last week we did issue an episode of Alternate Galaxies with Dylan Reese, looking at the TV version of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Cool.
At some point we'll do our next Alternate Galaxies on The Never-Ending Story.
Wow.
Oh,
okay.
Turn around and look at what you see. Lamar was in the King's Demons, wasn't he?
We've got some Stranger Things there. Yes, now, I did mention that my life is rapidly becoming not my own due to my work commitments for the coming election, so I will be tapping out of this month's Doctor Who show.
Ooh.
And Rob will be telling us all who his special guest will be, and they'll be doing a special topic, and then I'll be back a month later and we will do the EDA we promised to do. So that's just one of those things, putting sitting down on the couch. I mean, even this was, I don't know how I'm found the time to do this, but I did it because I love you guys.
Oh, bless you. Look, we've all...
I really love you guys. Look, I've rambled enough. We've had enough Gin and TARDIS. We enjoyed that, at least for company.
Look, it was great fun. And can I just say, 42 to Doomsday, we'll be back. We have recorded an episode.
Ooh.
It's in halfway through editing. I've just got to find the testicular fortitude to finish off the editing, so hopefully it'll be out in a week or 2.
You going to tell us the topic?
It's actually an interview with the author and contributor for the new TELUS book, Evolution of the Dalek Toys.
Ooh, nice.
So, yes, that's in the can, and so just editing that at the moment.
Well,
excellent.
Keep an eye out for 42 to Doomsday's latest
Thank you very
episode.
much.
But look, time to go. I've been Dave.
I'm Richard.
And I'm tired. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Whee!